We can start, I guess, yeah.
Thank you. I would like, of course, to welcome all of you to University of University. And for those new ones here, I have to say that this is our international project of learning architecture. We started saying that it was a project of teaching architecture, but after 1 year experience, exchanging workshops, conversations and ideas, we have realized that not only the students, but I would say that even more the teachers, we learn a lot from these conversations. We started the year 2022 with energy and with speed again. And it's a speed because this is a collaborative project. So it is very easy to get this, as I say, this velocity. And things I wanted to mention is that at this moment, we are 30 universities involved in this project. The last ones, they are from Brighton University and Bergen School of Architecture in Norway. As well, we start the second semester even with dealing with new realities. I mean, it's a project that is continuously evolving. And for example, workshops like Jose Carrillo in Dubai, that he's going to deal with metaverso, something that for them is already a present. No? And as well, our master course is getting solidity, is getting redefined, and Luna Nobile is in charge of this, of putting together the reflections needed for this new step. As well, we are working with the organization of an international symposium. And it is really difficult because every time we fix a title, the reality changes. And then we have to redefine it. We started, Alicante University was interested in having a symposium precisely on online teaching, because we are a fantastic example how to design really the possibilities of to go beyond the online teaching, and we are the example. But then it came back to the classes, to go back to the classrooms, the physical classrooms, to face-to-face. And many of us, when we were asked to go back, we realized that our classrooms, they were just 4 walls, more or less design, no? More or less beautiful, but in the end, 4 walls, very similar to a classroom in the 19th century. Therefore, we transformed the title of that symposium in something called, and Mike, you have to help us with the proper English word, concept. We were looking for something called presential plus face-to-face plus body-to-body, I don't know, something much more experiential without any doubt. But when we were dealing with that thematic, came Omicron and put again everything in crisis. What shall we do? Do we start this second semester teaching online, teaching face-to-face? So basically, we believe that the symposium is about the plasticity. Again, Michael, I don't know if this, Mike, it is a proper plasticity of teaching.
Fine, good.
So we are dealing with that. But anyway, here we are now together to talk about our journal. Our journal is our tool of research of University of Universities. And some weeks ago, as you know, we published the online second issue, edited by Sofia Alexiou in Evora University. In few days, we will have the printed, as well in paper, journal. And now we are going to start, this is the call of the 3rd issue. In the last semesters, we had two workshops directed by UOUsj from MEF University in Istanbul. And he proposed briefs of workshops that when he was explaining them to the students, they were briefs, very humble, very, I would say even naive, but surprisingly, according to the students, they were started drawing. Their drawings, they got a lot of power. They were representations that I would dare to say that the concept itself of representation was changing continuously, was changing. And it seems to me that in the end, even it lost its meaning to become a project in itself. But who better than UOUsj precisely to introduce that to this fantastic new issue of University of University. Thank you.
Thank you, Javier. And thank you everyone for coming and joining us tonight. I will try to briefly introduce this new issue of our beloved journal, let's say, because University of Universities is a project that I'm involved in and always surprised with what we have been doing, because normally we just talk with friends and nothing becomes real, but here everything happens all of a sudden. And I can't believe that this is my issue right now, because I remember the first time that we should organize the scientific journal, and then it happened, and then 2 issues were just published. And now we are talking about the 3rd issue, which is theme will be representation, because my PhD was about representational theory, so that I thought it could be nice to revisit this topic and then to discuss it in a wider range of people like you. I hope this I cannot change. Oh, okay. So yes, you have just met our director, Javier, from Alicante. And I will be the editor-in-chief for this issue. And we have Maria Luna, Sofia, Mike, Valerio, and Jose tonight together with us. Unfortunately, we don't have Joaquin, but he is also one of the editorial board members, so that we are a group of academics all around Europe, let's say. So it is also nice to have this opportunity, because maybe this is one of the only positive side effect of this pandemic, that we just had the chance to create a program like this. So just to come to the concept that we are talking is this, yes, representation, as you all know, that is a very wide umbrella that covers different disciplines such as design, arts, architecture, cinema, literature, politics, economics, semiotics, and etc. And truly, I would like to focus on the representation itself and its own nature, its own ontological aspect, its materiality, immateriality, or it is visible or invisible characteristics. And I thought that maybe it could be nice to narrow down the parentheses, so that my aim is not to focus on the metaphorical side of it, which is related with politics and semiotics. But I would like to express this part a little bit, because what I would like to say about what I mean about politics and semiotics is that, of course, representation is political, it is ideological, of course, but let's talk about the drawings that are political. Let's talk about the mappings or collage works that are political or ideological, but not political architecture per se. So that's why that I would like to focus on the nature of representation. And here it comes to this thing that, because Gadamer points out that representation is not a kind of a replacement or substitute of something, but it is something by itself. So it has its own existence. That's why I want to focus on this issue in this manner. And when we talk about representation, there may be 2 conceptions. One is the representation of the world in general, and the second one could be the world of representation. The former one is just how we represent the things that are happening all around us since the beginning of human beings. And there are some thresholds in medieval time, Renaissance time, Baroque or modern time, let's say. And the second part, the world of representation, may highlight the ontology of representation, and it is emancipatory, participatory, imaginative, speculative, and predictive characters, let's say. And this is just a long citation. I'm not going to read it, but this is from Dalibor Vasily and his book, Architecture in the Age of Divided Representation. I find it quite interesting and valuable to think about. And he focuses on the concepts like participation and emancipation, and it's linked with representation. And I find it quite important in today's world that how we define architecture as well. And I always believe that representation is a kind of a dialogue, or we may call it like a pendulum between the designer and the design thing. And that's why all the tools and techniques that we used while we are designing has a significant role. And I always, during my PhD, I did this kind of diagrams in order to express my ideas. Like this is a kind of a pendulum movement, like a floating action that just goes to the designer and then to the design thing, and maybe afterwards to the viewer or the observer, so that it is always making a movement in between and then carrying some knowledge from the designer to the design thing, and then from the design thing to the viewer. And in this case, it is also a kind of a dialogue between the designer and the observer. And during this process, of course, there are lots of background informations about space-time body relations, being organic, inorganic, or body without organs, object, subject interactions, perception and sensation, and all these things comes to presence while we are discussing about this world of representation. And of course, Alberto Perez Gomez is another important figure that I would like to mention tonight. And he's also highlighting the perspectival hinge between the world and the representation itself. So this gap or connection is quite important to highlight and think about while we are talking about the world of representation. And then maybe the question could be that what should be represented in architecture? Because of course this is too much related with architectural theory as well, because how we define architecture. And if we're reading about the definition of architecture, it will also affect the definition of representation, I would say. And in this sense, maybe we can talk about the epistemology of architecture, and this will create another pendulum between the virtual and the actual, the material and the immaterial, or the visible and the invisible. And we may also think about how can we make a link between these two sides, let's say, of the world. And how can, for example, lately we are too much talking about experience, bodily experience, spatial experience, and we can think about how can we represent experience rather than the building in citation, because architecture is beyond building, so that maybe these questions can open up new ways of understanding. And in this case, maybe I thought that representation may help us to link this ontology and epistemology of architecture, or the theories of representation in general. And while thinking these things, that I thought maybe there could be 4 different titles. The first one could be the ontology of representation, and which will be, we are dealing with the materiality or immateriality of it. And then we may talk about the epistemological aspects of it, related with emancipation, participation, imagination, speculation, prediction, and maybe we may end up with a kind of commitment like representation as space. And of course, we should talk about the tools and techniques of representation. Now we are talking about 2D, 3D, 4D, and also 5D representation. So how can we extend these borders? Or it could be a kind of textual or a visual representation. And all the things that we get used to use during these processes are more than welcome from a critical point of view. And of course, theories of representation could be also nice to have in this issue, like the origins of representation, or representation as a design tool, or its relation with perception and sensation and bodily deformation. And of course, representation of experience could be a part of this agenda. And of course, this comes up with a bunch of lots of different types and kinds of representations. And these are some images that I collect during my PhD while I was thinking about these issues. So these are from different fields, and all the things that are highlighted here are related with the emergence of sensation and how do we represent and all its material and immaterial aspects of it. So these issues, like the University of Universities Scientific Journal has a structure, and we are welcoming critical essays, articles, and student projects and artistic works together, so that you can have a look at these details in detail in our brief text, and then try to find out which part of this issue you can find, because we think that it should be nice to discuss the same topic from different points of views and from different kinds of participation, let's say, because critical essays are different than articles. And we would like to also welcome artists and students to participate through their own works with a critical text, not only just an image or something that just shows that a kind of a rendering or a model photograph of their project, but from a critical point of view that they can express something. As Javier mentioned, I try to make workshops related with this part, that they just, in the end, they just prepare one drawing, but then the drawing is talking by itself and it needs to be described or critically understood and deciphered in order to create a debate on representation. And of course, in order to create new questions about architecture in general. These are the dates that are the important dates. Let's say now we are launching the new issue, and we thought that 1st of March will be the full paper submissions. We thought it would be nice to have full papers, not abstracts like a conference paper, but have the full papers to review. And then the peer review notifications will be April 1st, and the final submission will be May 1st. And these are the things that I wanted to just highlight quickly. And now I would like to give words to my colleagues in the editorial board, and I'm sure that they would like to extend this call from their own point of view. Thank you very much. Maybe we can continue with Maria Luna if she wants to say something.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you, Ozan. Yeah, I think it was, I mean, it's always great to see how also a personal interest, research interest can in a way be brought into the discussion, because this was also the aim of starting this journal, also to expand of something that we have in a way been able to explore in the workshop, and now we have another kind of space in which we can expand it and even share with another community that is not only our students but also all the other researchers or and even other students or artists in this case that can join us in this. And yeah, it's great to think about this topic, because I remember also that in a way when we met, and it was a similar situation in which you were coming with a team of teachers from Istanbul in Naples, trying to find a local team in order to work with the students. I was impressed of the work of your students in relation to the topic of representation. I mean, how they were in a way able to understand and to use the representation as a way of understanding the reality. I have some reflections that I would like to share with you, and hoping that this can become more a kind of general discussion, also involving the ones who are joining us today, that came into my mind reading at your call. That is basically, I mean, I think that is very important what you pointed out. So this idea of, in a way, representation becoming a way of even dealing with different tools and using all the different tools that we as architects in a way have at our disposal. No, this is what we try to do every day with our students. Try to inspire them or to understand, I mean, how it's possible to use the different tools that they have at their disposal. But I think that according to this, it's also important, and it came into my mind, the notion of curation also as a way of representing an idea, no? Or even representing what is in a way the identity of a specific topic, or how it can express also the identity of a specific way of being an architect for each of us or for every architect in general. So I really think that even the idea of curation in a broader sense, no, seen as a sort of selection of different tools, or even as a sort of process of decision in defining, no, through what kind of let's say way, no, do you want to express your idea or collect in a way represent your idea, I think can be probably one of the point of the discussion. And again, I mean, I think that in a way representation also, one of the meaning probably of this could be, or my interpretation, to build, no, a sort of specific vision, or a vision that we want to communicate in a broader sense.
Yes, thank you, Maria. And also, I think that this curational act is related with relational thinking, because while you are making this curation, you relate different aspects in one position, so that not only critical thinking, but also relational thinking is very crucial in this process. So thank you very much for this contribution, let's say. Yeah. And Sophia, would you like to add something?
Yeah, so thank you very much. Hello, everybody. It's good to have number 3 on the way. And thank you, Javier, for letting us know that number 2 is already being printed. It's amazing to see those small videos that you send. It's exciting to see it. I enjoyed very much the topic of representation while I was thinking about which kind of direction my PhD would go. I thought about representation, because in architecture we have this middle task between our thoughts and the building itself and the architecture itself. It needs to be represented in some way, by models, by drawings, by whatever. And we need to communicate. And architecture communication, it's a high topic now, right? In medicine, in all chapters. I think it's very important to understand how to communicate in this new era. And with all these changes in our daily lives, we need to communicate in different ways, like we are doing now. If we were face to face, of course, the communication would be different. So, and we need to be more clear, perhaps, in our communication. And I think in this COVID topic, it's very important to be clear about what you are saying and be true when whatever you are saying about the virus. So going back to architecture, we need to represent our ideas, to fix them on papers or on screens, so that others can interpret what we design and build them, because we don't build. We as architects are not the ones who really build them, except for Javier, who still have this building all the time with him, which is amazing. Well, what I'm saying is that I had contact with several architects which are now in their 80s, 70s, 80s. They are closing their offices. And some of them, this is just a very short story, and I capture a conversation between 2 of them, and they were saying, well, I have all these drawings in my office and models, and these haven't been built, and what it's important, it's what it's built. Architecture is the built thing, not the drawings. So, you know, that guy that usually buys some paper by the pound, Okay, so let's call him and I'm selling. And I know some architects did that. Others just caught fire on their drawings. Others just throw them away. So this, of course, has been the start of many discussions here about how to preserve this legacy from these architects, because if it's not built, is it still architecture or not? It's a question, right? For this generation, if it's not built, it's not architecture. Well, I think there are a lot of unbuilt designs that can bring many information and some real interesting knowledge about some periods in time. And I mentioned to Ozan in the small email I sent him, the pioneer icons of the 1920s and 1930s in Soviet Union with the constructivist architecture. We all have these icons in our mind and they haven't been built, but aren't they architecture? So with this in mind, perhaps it might be a good research topic or a good research theme for a paper. And Ozan, definitely, I'm going to participate in this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophia. Thank you for your contribution, and I'm glad that you will participate in this issue. And as we are most of them are, I don't know everyone here, but we are professors, so that this communication is a critical issue. That yes, we have to deal with this concept of representation during our everyday lives. And I know that we have my dearest Valerio. He is not only a professor and an architect, but also an artist. And now he's in his studio. Would you like to say something, Valerio?
Ozan, just to say hi. That is, no. It is strange that I was thinking about this thing. Because when you showed the especially articles and essays and 4,000 words, or I was thinking, but representation is also a text. The Calvino was one who represented image through text, through words. So which is the limits between words and the other kind of words made by lines, made by signs, made by traces? That could be an interesting point of the representation to explore. I hate writing text. No, that is when I have to write an essay or an article, I feel a lot of pains in my body. So that is a kind of torture. But but I can see many kind of representations in many books, text, novels, and so on. Maybe I can explore this kind of image through text, through books, poems. For example, the landscape Chinese paintings, they became because someone wrote some poems about nature. Landscape in China was recognized through poems, through words. People represented the Chinese gardens starting from poems. Many landscape architects, before doing sketches or drawings in China, they wrote poems. So that is another interesting point to explore in relationship of representation. Yes. Maybe I can I can write something. But I don't know.
Maybe you can draw something, right?
Yes, maybe.
Sometimes in our studios, I have my colleague Didem Salam here, that for our first year design students, we have a task like writing as an image, because this is the similar point of view that why shouldn't we think about the text as an image? And also it reminds me of the connection between the text and the textile. You know, they are too much related. And in our Anatolian culture, the traditional kilims, the rugs, are a written story that is written by the woman that is weaving it. So that there is different connections between this textual representation and its visual.
And we have to remind the Dada,
Sure.
In which the words lost their meaning and significance, having just meaning and significance because of their image.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
The composition of the words together create another way to use words. So that is another important example. So I have a lot of ideas, but I don't think. Because then when I have to put everything into a piece of paper, writing, that is a kind of nightmare. But I really like the topic you are dealing with, and
Thank you.
I am envious every time I see what you do with your students. A kind of good envious, like the cholesterol. You have the good and the bad cholesterol, and envious good and bad. It depends. In this case, it is good. In this case, it's good.
Thanks for being with us. I am very happy to have you in our editorial board for this issue, Valeria. Thank you.
It is a pleasure.
Thank you. And I see Mike here. Mike, would you like to add something?
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Ozan. Thanks for the introduction to the edition. I think representation is going to be a great theme for so many people to be able to contribute. So first of all, rather like you, I'd like to echo the idea to everybody who's watching and who sees the call. Please do think about submitting, because we all deal with this subject. So it's not a subject that's going to be unfamiliar to anyone who's working in and around architecture, art practice, those sorts of things. From my own point of view, it's a really exciting edition, because my research and my practice is really about how we represent things. And in particular, I mean, obviously, traditionally, we've represented physical things in one way or another through text, as we were just hearing from Valerio, through obviously visual means, 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional, 4, 5-dimensional even. But my interest in my research is about how we represent the absence. That you mentioned this, Ozan, at the beginning. The absence of things. Architecture is more than just about the physical. It's about the invisible, the intangible, what people call an immanence, really. And I'd encourage people, therefore, to think quite broadly about this call, not just to think or assume it relies only on thinking about how architecture represents the physical, but how it represents the intangible as well. And art practice certainly allows for that imagined alternative vision of space and place. And therefore, this call really can go out to not just architects, not just academics involved, but artists. And I'd really encourage artists to think quite carefully about making and quite positively about making a contribution to this, either in one of the critical essays or in one of the research papers. And certainly the same goes for students here. I think when we make the call, we need to emphasize to students that this is your chance as well, students, to think about how you've experienced representation and maybe how you yourself do it. My own research is autoethnographic. So in students, in a way, you'd be well placed to do the same, to think about your own ways of representing things. Myself, I represent photography. I look at photography as found drawings. So I look at space and interpret space through this idea of photographs becoming found drawings, things that were not designed as images, but become images to represent our own ideas. So students, think about that. Artists, please think about that. And of course, architects as well. And all others who come across this call. It's an exciting opportunity to present your own views, your own ideas to a good wide audience, international audience as well. So yeah, rather like Ozan has said, and others who've spoken, please be encouraged. Certainly think about how you might contribute from your own work. Remember the deadline dates, so start work early, I say, and we look forward to receiving your contribution, essay, article, or whatever it is. And if you're a student, can I particularly emphasize, don't be scared to submit. I think talking to some students since we've had issues 1 and 2, some of them have been maybe a bit shy to submit stuff. Please feel free to submit it. You'll be encouraged and you'll be helped as well. If you need any help to shape your submission for the journal, we'll be really happy to help you. Same goes for everyone submitting, of course. So yeah, I and I'm sure all the other members of the editorial board really look forward to seeing your submissions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for being with us, and thanks for your encouragement for everyone. And yes, we should use the power of this international network, because now we have different, wines that are going different parts of the world, so that we should make it as much as possible to make people contribute to this wide issue. And last but not least, I would like to give the word to Jose. Maybe he would like to also say something.
Sure. Thank you, Ozan, for the fantastic introduction to the number 3 of the call of the journal. I fully agree with my colleagues about the diversity that this topic is offering to everyone to find an opportunity to submit their own interest, and the wide and the openness of the topic. I have been thinking about the topic from the last meeting we had, and many references came to my mind. One of them that really, it was surprising to me when I discovered the work of Philip Ram, that is an architect. He was able to represent atmospheres in the space. So I think that representation brings us opportunities to represent non-tangible things. We are thinking about architecture, about something that we can touch, but through architecture, we shape our feelings and our senses. And the senses and how the spaces are making us feel is also an opportunity to define new ways of drafting emotions. So I find fantastic the call, amazing the topic. Also is very related to new possibilities of space representation when this space is not, it doesn't have materiality through the new technology. Or in order to understand the space, you have to go into an immersive experience, and how these new trends will be represented in order to record these atmospheres as well. So excellent, and looking forward to reviewing the work of the submissions, and happy to help. Congratulations also.
Thank you, Jose. Thanks for the highlight, actually. Yes, this is quite critical. Like the new ways of architecture should also be reflected somehow through these immaterial or virtual realities, or as I said, metaverse could be another issue, which is quite popular lately. And of course, yes, representation as space, not the spatial representation, but representation as space is an important field, I would say. So thanks for being with us, and thank you very much for participating in the editorial board. And I would like to give the stage to the visitors, let's say. Do you have any questions, comments about this issue? I have some colleagues from Turkey. Thanks for being here with us. I see Berin and Derin Inan. And Sena Özfiliz also.
Thank you, Ozan, inviting us to the introduction of this issue. I mean, it has a very interesting topic. I was thinking when you are explaining, talking about what kind of issue it is going to be, I was thinking about how I can contribute to this issue. I still don't know, but it is very interesting topic. And since I know your works and I know your students' drawings, I'm sure you have a lot of material to share with us. I'm sure maybe with the studio works I could contribute. I don't know. I just thinking about it, but thank you for inviting us and thank you for this network, especially. I mean, I am seeing a very academicians or artists or architects, designers from different parts of the world. It is good to see them all together. Thank you.
Thank you.
The good job what you are doing, and I like the title University of Universities. I really appreciate your network.
Thank you, Berin. Thank you. And it's an open network, actually. If you would like to join us, please do that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. We would like to talk.
Okay. If you have questions or comments later on, please do not hesitate to email me or other members of the editorial board. We are here just to answer your questions. And we are looking forward to have your contributions or the people that you are spreading out this call. We will really appreciate if you can just distribute this call in your own networks so that we can reach more people as much as we can. And if you don't have any more questions and comments, we again would like to thank you for being here with us tonight. And hope to see you at the launch of number 3 when it is done in June, I guess.
It will be June, huh?
Yes.
It will be June.
Yeah.
Good luck, Ozan, and
Thank
all
you.
editorial team
Thank
for
you.
the new issue.
Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, have a good day or night. I don't know. We are in Turkey. It's the night time and
Have a good life. But it's amazing. It's amazing to listen to all of you. First of all, I have to say that every time you manage to edit an issue, I think we have the best issue possible. And how difficult will be for the next one. But as soon as the call comes for the next one, now everybody and I listening to the conversations is open. It's very inspiring, for example, and surprising. For me, I was laughing a lot when how Ozan, you have this call has managed to even to, I think, to swap the way of thinking of people, or at least I didn't expect it. Valerio saying that he's eager to write when he draws, and listening to Mike talking about image when his workshops are about to say not to draw at all. We are going to be speaking only in our architecture with speech. So it's fantastic. I would say that perhaps listening to you, I want to like to answer in that moment. I think the value of the drawing is the precision I mean, you give a book. Now I'm reading this book. I'm reading this book, and I'm sure that I give this book to each of you and have an understanding totally different of the characters, of the landscape, the colors, everything. No? When we watch a film, after having read a book, we say, "Oh my God, his voice or her looks like different from my imagination." So the value of I mean, on the one hand, the precision of the drawing, on the other hand, how the writing helps, no, to engage the reader for the imagination. But I was thinking about then the need of the artists, no, Valerio, when they invented, the Italian artists, the non finito, like to how with the drawing, sculptures in this case more, no, but could we make drawings that are non finito, no? To engage the audience, no, to complete the architecture. So, well, it's fascinating.
If you turn up, I can. We are in the same room, so.
No problem.
Okay. Well, my name is Halldóra. I am an art historian and with a PhD about Italian design and architecture. So, and Javier's wife as well. So, but I am. It has intrigued me very much, Ozan, your course. Particularly interesting for me because I'm writing a book about an Icelandic architect that who died in 1970, but he was born in 1914. So he was practicing his architecture from 1952 to 70. And he has left hundreds of drawings, and different kinds of drawings. And when Javier has mentioned this, to be the precision of the drawing, for me, it's that precision. What is it? I question that because the drawing, what I'm going through, I'm experiencing with this archive, and the drawings are sketches, different kinds of sketches, and what is then the meaning of the sketch, that representation of the sketch, of the idea, more than what is built. And then he has hundreds of drawings as well in different measurements, like 1 to 10, 1 to 50, 1 to 1 to 1, 1 to 100, 1. So the drawings, they multiply, So it depends who is the drawing is for, who is. And I think Javier is right, is when it's the precision, but the precision to whom? I mean, it's a way of communication. The drawing is a communication, is a narrative, right? But for whom? For yourself, for the people in the office, for the one who's making it, for the builder, so that word representation of whatever you are representing is very intriguing, and I have a lot of problems with it. Thinking as well what Sophia said before, that the elder generations, they have these drawings that they sell by kilos, no? They want to get rid of, but in this case he has absolutely everything. Small drawings, and he had these beautiful images as well of when he was traveling a whole year in Italy, from the north to the south. He was drawing with his pen, but as well with watercolors. So he was, recording, his experience through the drawing, and selecting that view. So this is very, very interesting subject, and I'm in this bubble of the 1950s, 60s. So, but and very different. The images you showed from your PhD, they are very different. So the representation is endless. So,
sure.
Congratulations with the team. You will have fun.
Thank you, and we are looking forward to have your book. Actually, very interesting. Now you are living in another world, the world of that Icelandic architect, I guess, through his representations. Thank you very much. Okay.
Also, can I just say something?
Of course.
I was just listening to Eldora, what she was saying, and suddenly I remind myself of La Sagrada Familia. Without the representation of that huge cathedral, it couldn't be finished, right? So it's important. Representation in architecture, very important.
Yeah. And yes, it is also a mediator, as Haldora said, that between different actors, actually, sometimes between you and yourself, because your ideas are a little bit blurry in your mind. When you make them like outer representations, then it starts to say something, you realize something, and then you start rethinking about it. So it's also a kind of a self-dialogue in between yourself. And that is, we may say, I forgot to write it down, but representation as mediator, yes, it's another keyword, let's say, that we can focus on.
Definitely, yeah.
Thank you very much. And it was so nice to have you here. And we will keep in touch and hope to have your contributions in this issue that I am so excited about. So thanks for being with us tonight. And see you soon in person.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good
Bye.
luck. Bye.
Bye-bye, thank you.
Thank you.
Keep
Bye.
safe.
You too.
Thank you.
Teşekkürler Ozan.
Teşekkürler.
Ben teşekkür ederim.
Teşekkürler Ozan.
Rica
Bye.
ederim.
Bye hocam. Bye Magali.
Bye-bye.